Very few games come by like Signalis, a passion project developed by two people over the course of 8 years that aim to evoke the classic survival horror era since long past. I'm talking PS1 styled Resident Evil Silent Hill stuff, and I gotta say, aesthetically, mechanically, and narratively, this game is a treat. In Signalis, you play as Elster, a replica unit who awakes from a slumber to find her ship crash-landed on a snowy planet and completely abandoned. Once Elster exits and explores the planet, she finds a gate that leads to a hole. She enters the hole to find another, smaller hole. Inside of this hole is a room with a few things in it. A door, a lockbox, the book The King in Yellow. Once she picks that book up, she gets a signal. Remember, our promise is a major theme of Signalis, as Elster's true mission once the game starts proper is to find her captain, Ariane. Unfortunately, this is a survival horror game, and all of the crew members in the facility have been infected with some disease that turns them into horrible creatures, and they're hostile towards anyone not infected. You do meet a few characters along the way, but for the most part it's just Elster and the monsters that are in her way, and man does the story go. You might not get a clear idea as to what's actually going on, but the ambiguity is intentional, and you'll at least know what's going on emotionally by the end. And it's pretty rough, guys, not gonna lie. Signalis wears its inspiration on its sleeve. Of course, it's heavily inspired by survival horror classics like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, but aesthetically, it goes more for something like Ghost in the Shell and Evangelion. Even narratively, it fits more closely to one of those stories rather than something like Resident Evil's spooky manor with zombies in it. No, this is a personal story full of self-reflection, and the atmosphere is what really sells it. The fact that the game looks as good as it does helps out a ton with that atmosphere. It intentionally looks like a low-poly PS1 game, but it uses that look to its advantage. Notice that most of the tech in the game is actually quite primitive. Pretty stock-looking weapons, keycards constantly being needed, even the different armor doesn't appear to be very high-tech at all. It's almost like a retro-futuristic look at what an Android future would look like, fitting that low-poly aesthetic. But once the gore comes, they do not let up with it. You get all sorts of meat and blood everywhere, plus some creepy-looking enemies, taking some pages from Silent Hill 2's nurse enemies. The gameplay is sort of a new age classic survival horror. There are tank controls, but they don't feel great in this game, so sticking to a more modern movement set is key here. You have very limited inventory space, but you do get some quick action items that you can carry along with you. But the game really wants you to travel light, which is something most survival horror games don't focus on anymore. So you really gotta decide, do I want to take a single weapon with me? What if I need to heal? Should I just avoid combat? It's a type of survival horror that actually emphasizes the survival aspect of it, and the game encourages you to take risks. The best ending in the game actually requires you to take a while to beat the game and get hit a lot, which the endings are one of the two issues I do have with the game. Other than the best ending, the rest are just kind of eh. And I will say the anime aesthetic does get in the way of the game's horror nature. No spoilers here, but later in the game they talk about how a character is all fucked up, but when you actually see them, they look kind of fine. But minor setbacks. Signalis is a near-perfect survival horror game for us enthusiasts. And have I mentioned the music yet? Just take a listen. Yeah, that's the kind of game we got here. It was my game of the year for 2022, and I still stand by it. If you love survival horror and haven't played Signalis, then what the hell are you doing watching this video? Get out there and play it already!